Salve, welcome to chapter 25 notes on the indirect statement. This is a type of sentence in Latin that's really popular. We say it in English all the time. We've been learning infinitives, and they're featured in this type of sentence. So that's all been kind of a tie-in to this. Recording this the day we just found out we're not going back to school, so that's crazy. It's hard to believe that we won't be back in class this year. So unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with. But I'm best try to get through a couple more concepts this year, and hope you guys learn it and grasp it. And for those that are taking Latin 3, you guys should be well prepared. All right, so I'm going to walk you through the notes. Let me zoom in a little bit. All right. Okay, the indirect statement is basically a sentence about a sentence. That sounds confusing, so this is better explained through some examples of indirect statements. The teacher says that you are a good student. So here, that's an indirect statement. You have a statement or a sentence, you are a good student, inside of a bigger sentence. The teacher says that you are a good student. All right, so there's really two parts of this sentence. The teacher says, and then you are a good student. Okay, and that's the sentence within the sentence. So our job is to figure out how to put this into Latin because it works a little bit differently in Latin. That's what you learn when you learn a language, that the same concepts are expressed just a little bit differently sometimes. Let me go through the other examples. She heard that school had been opened. I think I wrote this before. They closed school, so sorry about that. But here she heard. Then you have a that kind of bridges the gap here. And then your statement that's inside here, school had been opened. All right, and then another example, I think that we are lucky to be alive. All right, so these are all indirect statements. You can see that they all start with a regular verb of mental action, which in the ed puzzle you guys did, I believe they called them head verbs. And then you have that, okay, in each of these examples. And then you have the sentence that's being talked about, the sentence within the sentence. All right, this type of sentence in Latin uses infinitives for the second verb, where in English we use regular verbs. So there's essentially two verbs in each of these sentences. The introductory verb, and that's nothing different. Here, says would be he, she, it says. All right, and you learned how to do that in Latin 1. But the tricky part is the second verb. And the second verb, I'm going to highlight in each of these. All right, in the first one, it would be you are. That'd be the verb in that statement. On the second example, had been opened. Okay, a little bit wordier of a verb. And in the third example, we are would be the verb. So the verb to be pops up a couple times here. And that in Latin is going to be an infinitive form, where in English, we just make this a regular form. So, all right, we'll clarify that going forward here. Okay, a review on infinitives, namely the verb to be. Okay, so the principal parts of to be, sum esse fui futurum to be. The verb to be has no passive forms. All right, esse would be the present infinitive, to be. Fuisse would be the perfect infinitive. You take the third principal part and you add sse. And in its just chart form, you would translate it as to have been. And then the future infinitive, to be about to be. Now, these are how these infinitives translate if you just have them out there by themselves, but we're going to see that they're going to translate a little bit differently in this type of sentence. All right, so the sentence we're going to work with and try to put into Latin is, I say that Rome is a beautiful city. Okay, indirect statements, they always begin with a basic verb of mental action. So in here, it's I say. And I say in Latin would just be dico. Dico is, you learned how to do that in Latin 1. Dico is simply the present tense, the O ending equals I. So, dico. All right, nothing, you don't use infinitives in this part of the sentence, just regular verb form. I say. In English, we supply a that. This does not appear in Latin. All right, so in Latin, we're gonna just ignore this that. All right. The inside sentence, which Rome is a beautiful city, that's what the sentence you're talking about, begins in the accusative case, and that's a little tricky. So normally you think a subject would be nominative, but here it's accusative. So back to the sentence we're working on. I say that Rome would look like this: Dico Romam. And here I've put Rome in the accusative. It's called an accusative subject of the remaining sentence. You should be able to identify that ending. Roma is the first declension noun, and the am is the accusative singular in the first declension. So I say that Rome. All right, now we got to do the verb. And the verb here is, okay, from the verb to be. He, she, it is. So the most important part of this whole lesson is that the verb in the second part is not a regular verb form. It's an infinitive form. So what tense would you say is? You would say it's the present tense. And so we're going to use, let's go back to the chart here. We have 3 infinitives to pick from: present, perfect, or future. So we're going to use esse. That would be the present tense of to be. So let's put this all together. And I say that Rome is a beautiful city would look like this. I say, and we're assuming that Rome is a beautiful city. All right, and I added beautiful city at the end here in accusative because you're describing Rome, which is accusative. Then you just have the infinitive translating as is here. You've essentially, what you've written in Latin. You all right, buddy? Sorry. All right. Essentially what you've written, if you want to look at the Latin, dico, I say, Rome to be a beautiful city. We don't speak like that in English. You can if you want. Why not? It's not like you have to go in public anytime soon. So in English, I say that Rome is a beautiful city, but in Latin, that's what really you're doing. I say Rome to be a beautiful city. All right. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up shortly, but I want to play around with this sentence. So let's take this sentence here. Now, what do you think would happen if I took this sentence? I say, oh, what's up? Are you done? Can you let Floyd out? Is there? Yeah, you're having it. It's okay. I got it up here. Sorry, guys. All right, let's take esse and put it in the past. Fuisse. And we're only going to change that. I know. So all I've changed here is the infinitive, the second verb in the sentence. And I've changed it to, let's go back to the chart, fuisse. So which is the past tense. Okay, we say perfect, but it's really just past. All right, so how do you think that's going to change the translation? So what happens... hold on a second, Char. Almost done. All right, I got to wrap this up. I say that Rome was, or you can even say has been, a beautiful city. All right, so once again, I'm not translating the infinitive with the to here. I'm translating it as if it was a regular verb, just in the past tense. All right, and then let me take the other tense of the infinitive, only changing the infinitive Note what I did with the AM ending on futurum. You do want it to modify its subject. So instead of I've done AM here because of Romam. Sorry. All right, so I'm using a future infinitive of to be. And how do you think that would change the translation? Shark, can you keep it down, please? I say that Rome. No, we're not going to translate it like it's an infinitive. We're going to translate it like it's a regular verb. So I say that Rome will be. And we're just going to translate it like a future tense verb. I say that Rome will be a beautiful city. All right, chaos is erupting here. I gotta go. There'll be some questions to answer and some sample indirect statements to translate. I hope you followed me on this, and I hope you guys are doing well. And I hope to see you all soon. At this soon enough. All right. Miss you guys. Take care.